Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
Houses collapse and roads destroyed. China grapples with its deadliest earthquake in years.
No major disruptions to air travel over a fiery volcano eruption in Europe last night. We bring you the images and more details on the situation in Iceland.
The U.S. unveils plans to combat a string of attacks on international shipping in the waters near Yemen. This after Houthi terrorists struck again in the Red Sea on 2 ships at the same time.
Changes to America's refugee system. The Biden administration is expected to announce changes today regarding the selection process for refugees trying to come to the U.S.
6 Nevada Republicans were arraigned for casting alternate votes for former President Trump in the 2020 elections. More on their not guilty pleas and why former Trump lawyer Kenneth Chesebro gained immunity from state prosecution.
A group of Russians are joining Ukraine to fight Putin's troops. Some of the volunteers spoke about why they made this choice.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Over 120 people have been killed in China after an earthquake hit yesterday.
This is China's deadliest earthquake in 9 years.
The magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck just before midnight local time. The epicenter was in Gansu province, a mountainous region of northwestern China. The earthquake struck at a relatively shallow depth of 6 miles.
Over 700 people were injured. Search and rescue efforts are underway, but they are challenging in below freezing temperatures. Social media posts show college students breaking out of their dorms.
The quake damaged or destroyed more than 150,000 homes. It also damaged roads, caused at least 1 landslide, and knocked out power and communication lines.
Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen expressed condolences to China and offered aid. China has not said whether it will allow in any overseas rescue teams.
The Biden administration is expected to launch a new refugee program today. It would let sponsors in the U.S. nominate specific people they want to bring to the country. The program is known as the Welcome Corps. It would allow groups of 5 or more to nominate a person or family to sponsor. That's if they meet certain criteria and pass background checks.
Advocates of the rule say it could help families reunite and involve more everyday Americans in resettlement efforts. Previously, the United Nations and the U.S. State Department selected most refugees entering the U.S.
The new rule does not apply to immigrants who enter the country illegally. They are classified as asylum seekers if they surrender to authorities in the U.S. Refugee status is reserved for people who apply from abroad. In related news, the backlog of pending cases in immigration courts passed 3 million for the first time ever this November. That's despite a record number of judges working on the cases and a faster completion rate.
The flood of cases is proving too much to keep up with. Judges are swamped with an average of 4,500 pending cases each. Only 12 months ago, the backlog of cases was reportedly at 2 million. About $1,070,000. That's how much money the Defense Department says it's left to help Ukraine fight Russia. After that, the White House says the money is gone until lawmakers act. But funding is stalled as Republicans push for action first on the southern border, and an illegal immigrant surge is happening in the midst of Washington's stalemate. Here's more on the story.
On Monday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott made it a state crime to enter Texas illegally, giving local law enforcement federal-like immigration power.
Senate Bill 3 for more border wall construction is now law in the state of Texas.
Abbott, surrounded by supporters, arrived to Brownsville, Texas to protesters who fear the law will lead to racial profiling.
We need to respond with a heart and with a better system.
The system is strained. U.S. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens tells CNN border authorities apprehended about 192,000 migrants between ports of entry last month. Tucson Sector Chief Patrol Agent says more than 37,000 migrants were stopped there in the first 2 weeks of December.
Our border has been erased. We have no border any longer.
While Republican presidential candidates blame President Biden for record-high migrant apprehensions, White House and Senate negotiators are trying to work out a border deal. Without that, aid to Ukraine, Israel, and more is stalled. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says there's progress, but it will take time.
We cannot afford to get this wrong.
Monday, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which says it had seen a surge in migrants moving by train, temporarily halted railway operations at international crossing bridges in Eagle Pass and El Paso. The Association of American Railroads called for a policy reversal, saying in a statement, every day the border remains closed unleashes a cascade of delay on both sides of the border. Like so much on the border, multiple sides and no easy middle.
New York City has sent nearly 20,000 illegal immigrants out of the city since March of last year. That's according to City Hall data. The transport was done through a travel ticket purchase program. That program has so far cost the city more than $4.6 million. New York City agencies have bought more than 19,000 tickets for illegal immigrants to travel to 10 different states around the U.S. They include Texas and Florida, two Republican-led states that have programs of their own to send migrants to other jurisdictions. A spokesman for New York City Mayor Eric Adams says more than 154,000 migrants have arrived in the city over the last 20 months.
The U.S. military says Houthi terrorists attacked two ships at the same time in the Red Sea yesterday. One of the attacks was on a commercial oil tanker. U.S. Central Command says it was targeted by a one-way attack drone and an anti-ship ballistic missile launched from Yemen. The other commercial vessel, a bulk cargo ship, reported an explosion in the water nearby. No injuries were reported.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned the attacks in a call with Saudi Arabia's foreign minister yesterday.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin unveiled a new U.S.-led coalition yesterday. The naval operation aims to counter the growing threat in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Canada, the UK, Italy, and France are among the nations joining this security initiative. Austin says the international challenge demands collective action. The defense secretary says some countries will conduct joint patrols and others will provide intelligence support in the region.
Israel is using AI targeting tools in Gaza. They're used to coordinate aerial strikes on Hamas targets. How does this system work, and how effective is it at minimizing civilian casualties? We speak with a man who used to work for former Army information operations, Christopher Alexander. Christopher Alexander, thank you for joining us. How does this AI targeting system Israel is using work in the first place?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the targeting process. So what happens is all sorts of intelligence, tiny little scraps of information sometimes, pictures, satellite signals, radio intercept, satellite photography, all these things are put together into what's called a targeting package. And then these things are triaged, these packages, to determine which targets you should try to fire at. And a big part of targeting, I should point out, I went to targeting school and was a targeteer, is making sure that there's minimal collateral damage for civilians. So a ton of data goes in, and AI is invaluable because it helps sift through that data faster than a human being.
And what role do human beings play in this process of targeting and launching these strikes?
I think, again, it's important to recognize that AI is not at the fantastical state that we see in movies. It's a kind of a low-level white-collar worker. So it's invaluable in intelligence analysis because it sifts through mountains of data, never gets tired, keeps going. So what it's doing is it's building a package together that then goes to a human being to review. The AI doesn't fire a target on its own. And so I think it's really important to recognize that it's easier to critique a paper than to write one from a blank piece of paper. And so what the AI is doing for a targeting officer is assembling that case, and then the targeting officer is making the decision.
And have we seen AI used at this scale in a combat scenario before?
I think in a combat scenario may depend on your definition. Sort of the Cold War that's gone on in cyberspace and with information warfare, absolutely. I worked with a program out of IARPA that sifted data in a very similar way, but was not used for lethal targeting. It was used for non-lethal targeting. But from the military's perspective, whether it's a missile or a tweet, they're tracked and they're planned for in the same way.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And what kind of competitive edge does artificial intelligence afford Israel here?
Well, it's a high-stress scenario. Human lives are at risk. There are deadlines across the board, both internally and that affect even more potential friendly or civilian loss of lives. And so what AI does is it reduces stress on the targeting officer by doing a lot of the nug work, if you will, that the drudgery that goes into their job. That's incredibly important, incredibly detailed, but also time-consuming and exhausting. So it turns 3 targeting officers from the Israeli system called the Prophecy, I guess, to 7 or 8 times as effective, up to 50, I suppose. And I'm sorry, it's the gospel. The gospel, sorry. Yeah, the gospel, yeah. Everybody's talking about the number of civilian deaths in Gaza, so I wanted to ask this question. There's a woman, Heidi Kalaf. She says AI algorithms are notoriously flawed with high error rates observed across applications that require precision, accuracy, and safety. How can the IDF minimize targeting errors and civilian casualties in Gaza with using this technology? Well, in terms of the AI making mistakes, that's well known. And it's incorporated into the targeting process. So the AI is assembling the targeting package and a human being is reviewing it. Consider it the same way as knowing enough math to know that the calculator is wrong. So the AI is the calculator in this case for the targeting problem. In terms of its value, I've worked with the IDF. They do go to great lengths, perhaps not quite as great a lengths as the United States does, but they go to great lengths to avoid civilian casualties. And what the AI does is it allows them to do more work under less stress and therefore make better decisions about targets that have a higher risk of collateral damage.
All right, Christopher Alexander, thank you so much.
Coming up, a watchdog group says presidential candidate Ron DeSantis is breaking campaign laws. We bring you the governor's response and what comes next for his campaign.
And today is the 4th and final day of the Conservative America Fest conference in Phoenix. We hear from some young people about what drove them to attend and take a look at some highlights. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shin.
Did you know African elephants could become extinct in our lifetime? In fact, more than 90% are already gone. If we don't act now, they will disappear forever. But we can't do it alone, because when it comes to saving elephants, it's you plus IFAW, the International Fund for Animal Welfare. You plus IFAW together can help stop poaching, protect habitats, and save thousands of elephants. Call or go online right now to join IFAW.org and give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. You can save elephants and the places they call home. Together, we can fund rangers to stop poachers in their tracks, protect the land elephants need to roam and survive, and provide loving care for those who have been orphaned so they can one day be released back into the wild. But the only way we can do this life-saving work is with you plus IFAW. So call or go online with your gift right now. With the monthly support of people just like you, elephants like Moses are alive and thriving today. It takes years of hard work from dedicated teams so orphaned elephants can learn the skills they need to survive in the wild. So please, call now or go online with your monthly gift. You can help provide the urgent care elephants need so this generation won't be the last. And when you use your credit card, you'll get this exclusive membership kit, including your very own IFAW t-shirt to show it's you plus IFA standing together to help rescue and care for these majestic creatures. The danger for elephants is more urgent than ever before. That's why we need you. It's going to take all of us to help save elephants before they disappear forever. So please, call right away or go to joinifa.org with your monthly gift, because together, you plus IFA can save lives.
A friend of mine, she told me about Bonatti. He was the only one to address all 4 deaths as quickly as possible. And if you're to that point where you can't take it anymore, like I was, do your research, find out who the best is, and get it done.
Visit askbonatti.com.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
Thank you for staying with us. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis allegedly breaking campaign finance laws. A campaign watchdog group says DeSantis illegally coordinated with a super PAC. The Campaign Legal Center accuses DeSantis of making direct requests or suggestions to a super PAC called Never Back Down.
Political campaigns are not allowed to work directly in cooperation or consultation with super PACs. This includes candidates suggesting where, when, and how a super PAC airs its political communications.
The watchdog group says this is what the DeSantis campaign has done. The group says through such collusion, super PACs lose their independence and become part of the political campaign.
The DeSantis campaign and the super PAC have denied the allegation. DeSantis now has 2 weeks to officially respond to the complaint. After that, the Federal Election Council will review it and make a recommendation to its 6-member bipartisan commission. 6 Nevada Republicans pleaded not guilty yesterday to charges of faking state 2020 presidential election results.
Each is charged with 1 count of forgery and 1 count of filing a false record.
Court filings revealed former Trump lawyer Kenneth Chesebro was granted immunity in the state for agreeing to testify to a grand jury in Clark County. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the trial in the swing state.
The 6 Nevada Republican electors that pleaded not guilty Monday were arraigned remotely over their casting of alternate slates of votes for former President Trump during the 2020 presidential elections. The 6 signed certificates stating Trump won the state in 2020 and sent them to Congress in the National Archives. The votes were ultimately ignored. The defendants are Nevada GOP Chair Michael McDonald, Nevada GOP Vice Chairs James DeGraffenreid and Durward Hindle, Clark County GOP Chair Jesse Law, and Douglas County GOP officials Sean Maheen and Eileen Rice. If convicted, they face up to 9 years of jail time, with each felony charge bringing penalties from 1 to 4 to 5 years in prison. A trial date is set for March 11th. Trump mentioned the 6 indicted electors at a rally in Reno this week, saying they were being treated unfairly and suggesting the case was politically motivated. The leading GOP 2024 candidate called it a weaponization of law enforcement for high-level election interference due to his lead in the polls. Meanwhile, court transcripts revealed former Trump campaign lawyer Kenneth Chesebro was granted immunity from prosecution in Nevada for his testimony to a grand jury. Chesebro was first indicted on 7 felonies and pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit filing false documents. The attorney has been widely publicized as the architect of an alternate elector scheme after a legal memo he wrote for the Trump campaign was leaked. Chesebro is facing investigations in Nevada, Arizona, and Washington regarding the 2020 elections.
All rise.
Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Hunter Biden is scheduled to make his first court appearance and arraignment in California next month. His court appearance is set for January 11th at the U.S. District Court in California. The charges stem from a 9-count grand jury indictment accusing Hunter Biden of 3 felony and 6 misdemeanor tax offenses. The indictment alleges he failed to fulfill his tax obligations. Instead, he allegedly spent his money financing an extravagant lifestyle, including drugs, escorts, luxury hotels, exotic cars, and other items, totaling over $1 million. The charges say he failed to pay taxes in 2016, 2017, and 2019, and failed to file returns for 2017 and 2018. And today is the final day of Turning Point USA's America Fest 2023 in Phoenix, Arizona. Young conservatives from across the nation traveled to attend the conference. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on what they had to say and some highlights from a few speakers.
17-year-old Lydia Harvey traveled from Texas to attend the conference. She'll be voting for the first time in the 2024 election.
I will be voting for President Trump. He already did a wonderful job the first time running the country. He kept all of his promises.
Elsa Personette says she grew up in a very liberal state and felt alone in her views. So she really appreciates the networking and connections she can make at AmFest.
Meeting people from all over the country that are like-minded in the same political views and values as you.
Blaine Hibbert's favorite speaker was Carrie Lake.
She's running for the United States Senate here in Arizona, and she's going to do a great job. She's a very passionate individual, and she refers to herself as Trump in address, so that's pretty cool too.
Jessica Gomez feels that modern culture has demonized traditional values.
When you have conservative values, a lot of people think that it's hateful and that it's trying to be against them and that it's trying to be racist, be homophobic.
Gomez is hoping a Republican wins the presidency, saying college students have suffered economic hardship under President Biden. Conservative commentator Tucker Carlson spoke at the event. He said America sits on the cusp of collapse, with interest on the debt costing more than defense spending.
And when robotics are eliminating entire classes of jobs for working class people, why would you admit illegally tens of millions of people from the poorest countries in the world with no skills?
The conservative commentator said the current administration and enablers in the Republican Party are trying to destroy the United States.
The people doing evil do not win in the end. They are destroyed by the evil that flows through them.
Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy also spoke at the event, laying out his plan for election integrity.
Single day voting on election day as a national holiday with paper ballots, government issued ID to match the voter file.
Political commentator Benny Johnson gave some advice to young men on how to be unshakable.
Find a woman, fall in love, get married, have more children than you can afford, have insane amounts of kids. There's nothing the world can do to shake you if you do those simple steps.
Turning Point USA is an American nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk and Bill Montgomery. It supports conservative politics on high school, college, and university campuses. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Prosecutors have begun charging 80 protesters who blocked traffic on the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge last month. The delay lasted for hours as demonstrators demanded a ceasefire in Gaza. 17 people appeared in court yesterday to face a slew of charges.
Defendants face counts of false imprisonment, refusing to comply with a peace officer, unlawful public assembly, and obstruction of a street, sidewalk, or other public place.
About 200 protesters blocked all lanes of traffic into San Francisco on the bridge's upper deck. Some drivers tossed their keys into the bay. Dozens were arrested and 29 vehicles were towed.
Protesters have also blocked major roadways in Los Angeles, New York, Boston, and Philadelphia. A temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas collapsed in late November.
And a federal judge is halting the removal of a Confederate statue at the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. The temporary restraining order bars the removal of the memorial site. The order comes after the group Defend Arlington, along with Save Southern Heritage Florida, filed a lawsuit Sunday. The lawsuit alleges the U.S. Department of Defense violated the National Environmental Policy Act in its attempt to remove the memorial, and says it failed to take care of the grave sites surrounding the memorial as the process of removal was underway. There's a court hearing on the issue set for Wednesday. A cemetery spokesperson said Sunday they anticipated the monument would be completely removed by December 22nd. The move is the latest action in the removal of Confederate symbols from U.S. military facilities. The Department of Defense established the policy last October.
Hawaii Governor Josh Green is requesting $425 million from state lawmakers during the next fiscal year. The funding would help Maui recover from August's devastating wildfires. The fast-moving blaze killed at least 100 people. The inferno destroyed Maui's historic town of Lahaina. About 12,000 people were displaced. Half are still living in hotels due to a severe housing shortage on the island.
The proposed budget is Green's first request from state lawmakers since the catastrophe. The federal government is paying for much of Lahaina's cleanup and emergency housing.
Green said that it will cost more than $5 billion to recover from the fire. The state's share would be about $500 million.
The State Council on Revenues is scheduled to meet on January 8th.
The Justice Department launched a new national database to centralize information on misconduct of federal officials. The new measure will make it more difficult for these officials to get hired by other departments. It will flag them during the hiring process for law enforcement positions. President Biden says it's part of an executive order on police reforms he signed in 2022. Right now, the database only applies to federal officers. But Biden says he's working to allow state, local, and tribal agencies to also participate.
A Florida man pleaded guilty to threatening to kill a U.S. Supreme Court justice. The Justice Department did not identify which justice was the target of the threatening phone call, but online court documents reveal the threat was made against Chief Justice John Roberts. The Justice Department says the 43-year-old man called the Supreme Court on July 31st and left an expletive-laden, threatening voicemail message. He was arrested in August. He could get up to 5 years in federal prison. A sentencing date has not yet been scheduled.
A California officer and his canine companion are recovering after an accident. The Ventura County deputy was struck by an allegedly drunk driver Saturday night while responding to a call. The crash sent his vehicle into the air and left it dangling from a cliff over the ocean.
The deputy was treated at a local hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. His Dutch Shepherd Denny was also treated for a minor cut to his face.
The driver who hit them was also treated and then booked into jail.
Coming up, a group of bipartisan U.S. lawmakers demand that the Justice Department investigate the Chinese Communist Party's role in violence committed against activists in San Francisco. We have expert analysis.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin says interference from the West won't stop Russia from fighting in Ukraine, but he doesn't rule out peace talks with Western nations.
American-made F-16 fighter jets are aiding in the training of Ukrainian soldiers. How can these modern warplanes help the country in the battlefield? We'll have the details soon when we return.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. on food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
I'm David Lam in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we are NTD News.
A bipartisan panel of U.S. lawmakers wants the Justice Department to investigate recent attacks on Chinese human rights activists on U.S. soil. They protested the Chinese regime's abuses while the Communist Party's leader Xi Jinping was in San Francisco last month. But these activists faced harassment and violent attacks. Next, we'll hear from the CEO of Black Ops Partners Corporation, Casey Fleming, for his perspective. Casey Fleming, how widespread is this intimidation of Chinese activists on U.S. soil, and what are the markers that suggest that it's from the CCP?
You can absolutely understand it's from the CCP. So it's widespread. Those who are anti-CCP in the United States are being tracked through surveillance and intimidation. So you can absolutely know that the CCP are completely behind it. Same thing as with the CCP police stations that you saw in New York, LA, Chicago, even in Houston. So those are CCP police stations that the FBI finally went in and helped shut those down. All they did was, in our information, was they moved to another location.
All right. And what kind of impact does this have on the activists themselves here in the U.S., Chinese activists who were intimidated, and also on the broader sense of free speech within the U.S., do you think?
Well, it's to shut down free speech against Xi and the CCP. It's to shut that down in the United States, inside of our borders. And it goes against our freedom. It goes against our Constitution. And we can't allow that to happen.
Now, lawmakers and activists want the DOJ to investigate the harassment that these activists faced during Xi's visit. What factors could be at play, do you think, into whether they do launch an investigation, and what would be the significance of the message that it sends?
Well, investigations from the FBI and the DOJ all follow investigations, so you need evidence. So it's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So any kind of video, statements, eyewitnesses, that kind of thing can give light to the beginnings of an investigation. It absolutely should be investigated. We've got to put an end to it in defending our freedom and our Constitution.
And concern is currently rising about the increase of military-aged Chinese men appearing at the southern border here in the U.S. What kind of impact do you think that could have on free speech into the future, just in your view?
More intimidation and subversion inside the United States. When Chinese nationals are coming across the border undocumented, you have to understand they are reporting to a Chinese communist regime. And the communist regime controls you and your family back in China, as well as first, second, third generations in the United States. So all you can imagine is that it's very negative, and it goes against the Constitution and our free speech, as well as our well-being. So you have to understand, this is a different world that we're living in today.
And as China remains a hot topic and we're looking ahead to the 2024 elections, what do you think voters should keep in mind when they're assessing candidates regarding this topic?
Voters need to understand, number one, who's going to go after the Chinese Communist Party. The FBI director 4 years ago came out and has said many times since that China is the largest threat, single most largest threat to the future of the United States. So you only want a candidate that is painfully clear that she's going after the Chinese Communist Party. Period. The end. Just listen to the director of the FBI.
And lastly, Casey, the Hong Kong Democracy Council's executive director, Anna Kwok, says that the CCP isn't afraid of harassing activists here because she says that U.S. law enforcement just isn't equipped to hunt them down and hold them accountable. How do you see it? Do you think that that's an accurate representation?
I think it's the representation and the narrative put forth by the Chinese Communist Party. But just look at January 6th with the videos and so on. It took them only a couple of months to pretty much get everybody in January 6th who was protesting. Not to take a position on that. I am not taking a position on January 6th, other than law enforcement did a very good job of finding out who those people were on January 6th. So you can run, but you can't hide.
All right, Casey Fleming, CEO of Black Ops Partners Corporation. Thank you so much. And heading now to Europe, we start with a powerful natural phenomena on a Nordic island and its fallout. The government of Iceland now says last night's large volcanic eruption poses no threat to life and that it won't affect air travel as international flight corridors remain open.
That's after lava and smoke poured into the Iceland sky last night. Between 3,000 to 7,000 cubic feet of lava emerged per second. That's several times more than in previous eruptions in the area.
Local police raised their alert level as a result of the eruption. The country's civil defense warned the public not to approach the area. Iceland was prepared for the eruption. Last month, the government evacuated around 4,000 people.
A volcanic eruption in Iceland in 2010 caused the largest closure of European airspace since World War II. Many flights connecting Europe and the U.S. fly over Iceland. This resulted in financial losses of around $2 billion.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today said Moscow will continue its war in Ukraine and that attempts by the West to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia had crumbled.
At the same time, Putin said that Russia would be prepared to talk to Ukraine, the U.S. and Europe about the future of Ukraine if they wanted to, but he added that Moscow would defend its national interests.
At the same conference, Russia's defense minister said today that Russia plans to increase the number of soldiers to 1.5 million, and that Russia increased tank production by over 5 times since the start of the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says new sanctions by the EU will help reduce Russia's economic foundation for the war.
The new sanctions focus on import ban on Russian origin diamonds and additional import and export bans. It's the 12th set of sanctions introduced by the bloc.
This comes as Ukraine's army chief insists the situation on the front line of the war has not reached a stalemate.
Last month, the army chief did describe it as a stalemate. However, he changed his stance after Zelenskyy denied the war had reached that point.
Western nations accuse Iran of violating multiple points of a nuclear deal. That's by allegedly developing and testing ballistic missiles, transferring hundreds of drones to Russia, and enriching uranium to an unprecedented 60% level.
Britain, France, and Germany say those points violate the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The UN political chief yesterday urged Iran to reverse course. Iran and its ally Russia dismissed the charges.
After reaching a military agreement with Finland yesterday, the United States is now expanding cooperation with Denmark.
The Danish Prime Minister today announced that his country reached a defense deal with the U.S. American soldiers and equipment can be permanently stationed on Danish soil.
The 10-year agreement comes after the U.S. signed similar agreements with Finland and Sweden this month. Officials are set to sign the agreement later this week.
American-made F-16 fighter jets for Ukraine have arrived at training centers in the U.S. and Europe. Will these modern aircraft add to Kyiv's chances of winning the war? Let's take a look.
American F-16 fighter jets set for Ukraine are making their way to training centers in the United States and Europe, as Kyiv's allies hope the modern warplane can push Russian jets further from the front lines and change the shape of the battlefield from the air. The F-16 will replace Ukraine's strained and thinning fleet of the Soviet-designed MiG-29s and other jets dated back to days of the Cold War. They have advanced radar and their weapons boast greater range and may allow Ukraine to better Russian air defense systems. Western military officials and experts also say the F-16s will help Kyiv integrate with Western allies and break Ukraine's reliance on aging hardware built by its enemy. Training enough pilots and support crew to operate the new fleet will take months. 8 pilots and 65 support personnel are in the first stages of learning how to operate the F-16 in Denmark. Others are in Arizona and Romania. Although the exact number of aircraft has not been disclosed, experts expect it to be in the dozens. Kelly Greco, a senior fellow at the Stimson Center, adds that air combat training would be next, with 6 to 8 weeks of instruction. Air-to-ground training would last another 2 months. A Ukraine Air Force spokesperson said he did not expect the jets to operate in Ukraine until 2024. Russia has warned against delivering F-16s to Ukraine, with its ambassador to Denmark saying in August that doing so would be, quote, an escalation of the conflict.
Ukraine is training a battalion of Russian volunteers. Some volunteers say they're disappointed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and want to live by conscience. And some say they want Putin's administration removed from power. Here's the story.
The Ukrainian armed forces are training a new group of volunteers on the outskirts of Kiev. But the volunteers are not Ukrainians, they are Russians. The Siberian Battalion of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, which was formed 6 months ago, is made up of Russian citizens who joined Ukraine to fight against their own country.
Why am I here? Of course, I am here. I didn't want to be part of fascist Putin's Russia because I was disillusioned with my own people.
Karabas said he was shocked by images of what was happening to Ukrainians in Russian-occupied areas, so he decided to act against Russia, his home and country. It took him almost a year to travel from Russia to Ukraine. He even learned Ukrainian, refusing to utter a word in his native Russian.
I just wanted to live by conscience and honor. If my country, although I can no longer call Russia my country, but if Russia is at war, then I also think I must fight against Russia.
Fighters in the battalion are from eastern Siberia. Some are from ethnic communities in the region. They hope a Ukrainian victory will bring them one step closer to dismantling Moscow's political control over their region, among the poorest in Russia.
This is the result of negative selection, when the most immoral, unprincipled, spineless people come into power. At the minimum, these people need to be removed from the government, and when this happens, we can talk about victory, because Russia will at least cease to be a source of sudden aggression.
Unlike other volunteer units in Ukraine that have Russian nationals, the Siberian Battalion is officially part of the regular Ukrainian army. Its fighters undergo lengthy security checks, which sometimes take up to a year. Before signing a contract, volunteers undergo a thorough inspection, which can last up to a year.
When we come back, this iconic 19th century landmark was once the tallest structure in the Western Hemisphere. It's also a quintessential New York City tourist stop. We'll explore its history and majesty.
A 100-year-old steam train gets Brits in the Christmas spirit. Why volunteers are so enthusiastic about the event. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
Dr. Bonatti, this is Norm Evans. I played for the Dolphins and the Seahawks. Anyway, I was just calling to say thank you to you again because I'm feeling great. No more back or neck problems after all these years, and I'm doing well thanks to you. I just wanted to say thank you and let you know I was thinking about you, and I always do. Okay, God bless you, friend. Keep up the good work.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I'll be home for Christmas.
You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree.
Right now, all over the country, kids at Shriners Hospitals for Children are able to go home and be with their families for the holidays. And that's only possible because of the monthly donations from people like you.
Thanks to a generous donor, every dollar you give can help twice as many kids like me and have double the impact.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of the care you'll be providing so kids can be with their families.
Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams.
It only takes a moment to call the number on your screen, or you can visit loveshriners.org.
Thanks to a generous donor, your gift will go twice as far and help more kids like me.
Because every child just wants to be home for the holidays, and your gift makes that possible.
Your call is the best gift of all.
Your gift will be my favorite Christmas present this year.
Thank you for giving.
Please call the number on your screen or go to loveshriners.org to give whatever you can.
And when you do, your gift will have 2 times the impact.
Welcome back. What's the most iconic landmark in New York City? The debate is still out, but the Brooklyn Bridge scores high marks. I hopped over to the legendary structure that spans Manhattan's East River to savor its history and mystique in the year of its 140th birthday. There are a lot of tall buildings in Manhattan, but at one point in time, the Brooklyn Bridge was the tallest structure not only in New York, but in the entire Western Hemisphere. Over 100,000 people gathered here to celebrate the completion of this bridge in 1883, to celebrate what would have been considered an architectural marvel. With 1,500 feet between the two towers and over 6,000 feet long, this beauty would have once dwarfed every other structure in Manhattan by a wide margin. The Brooklyn Bridge was one of the most ambitious undertakings of the industrial age. Its chief engineer, John Augustus Roebling, made a name for himself in the world of suspension bridges. He's known for perfecting the craft and art of bundled steel cable making, a technology still widely used today. In 1867, he became the chief engineer of the bridge, and in just a few months, he completed the master plan. 2 years later, an accident while conducting surveys for the bridge resulted in his death the following month. His 32-year-old son took his place as chief engineer. The younger Washington Roebling saw the bridge through the next 14 years to its completion in 1883. The two towers of the Brooklyn Bridge stand 278 feet tall, built in the neo-Gothic style harkening back to medieval France, with arches pointing to heaven. The two towers are built on top of caissons sunk beneath the East River, and at the top of each tower are 4 massive cables composed of thousands of tiny wires. The ends of each cable are sunk into anchors set aside from the East River. Each anchor weighs 54,000 metric tons. The death of the bridge's chief engineer just 2 years into the project was one of many roadblocks to the work's completion. By the end of 1872, Washington Roebling was confined to his home, sick with the bends, also known as caisson disease. He and other men who worked in the bowels of the bridge's caissons acquired the sickness. As I mentioned, caissons are underwater blocks of concrete on which the two towers of the bridge are built. To build the caissons, workers dig out dirt from the riverbed. As they dig deeper, the pressure gets higher. Working in such conditions is similar to going scuba diving. Divers often acquire the same illness if they ascend to the surface too quickly. Because he was incapacitated, the younger Roebling's wife, Emily Warren Roebling, relayed messages to the engineers. She gained notable engineering know-how through this process. Today, 100,000 cars and 4,000 pedestrians cross the bridge every 24 hours. Many of them come to marvel at the artistry, craftsmanship, and legacy of this major New York City landmark.
I love it. Like, I expected all my life to be here, so it's kind of exciting. It's crazy because if I think when they built it, like more than 100 years ago, it's like very interesting. And
it's pretty nice. We've been walking the whole day, and I believe this is the most entertaining thing so far. A lot of pictures.
It's like an icon, isn't it? Like the Statue of Liberty with New York and everything. So, yeah, we've enjoyed it.
It's surreal to be here. You know, it's like a pinch me moment that we're actually on the bridge. So it's beautiful. Okay. It doesn't seem real that we're here. Wow. But yeah, it's beautiful.
I won't pinch you. No. If you could summarize the bridge in just one word, what would it be?
Awesome. Awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Whoa. Gorgeous. I don't know, it's amazing.
The cultural legacy of the Brooklyn Bridge is almost as breathtaking as the landmark itself. Films and TV series about or taking place in New York City open with wide shots of the bridge. Artists, musicians, novelists, poets, historians, filmmakers, and playwrights have all been inspired by it. Documentarians like Ken Burns showed the world the surprising history of this iconic structure's making in his 1981 documentary called Brooklyn Bridge. There's even a famous saying about the bridge. If someone says something hard to believe, you can say, "Next you're going to try to sell me the Brooklyn Bridge." That's in reference to a favorite scheme of a con man, George Parker, who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He set up a fake office and forged documents preying on the wealthiest, most gullible people he could find. He's said to have sold the bridge multiple times. On top of the Brooklyn Bridge lives the fastest creature known to man, the peregrine falcon. It can dive up to 240 miles per hour as it catches its prey. In a way, it's the perfect place for such a creature, what was once the longest suspension bridge in the world. A 100-year-old steam train is delighting visitors on a historical railway just outside London. Eager volunteers drive while more than 18,000 Christmas lights illuminate the locomotive. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the festivities.
This 1920s steam train is running from Unger Station in Essex. Andy Harvey is happy to volunteer to drive tonight.
Just a whole warm glow to it. And the train of lights is great because the whole family's coming out, and literally it is whole families from babes to grandparents. And also it's the building up to Christmas. It is a real buzz.
300 passengers board before the train pulls out of the station. Christmas music resounds through the cars. Soon, singing and dancing follows.
I'm really enjoying the Christmas train because there are a lot of good songs on the soundtrack, and yeah, it's just and all the decorations are really nice.
Lighting technician John Cooper controls the lights from his laptop, ensuring a bright but safe journey.
So that what allows us to create the fancy patterns and sweeps up and down the train. We have a special trigger system so that we don't have any signal colours when we're near signals and things like that. So to put the emphasis on safety around the train line as well.
Signalman Chris Arrington is at the far end of the station. He must stay alert at all times to control the operating levers on the line.
Well, it's nice to see people enjoying themselves, especially young children. They come off there all singing and dancing and leaping around with their presents and what have you, and it is special, isn't it? Everyone says Christmas is special, and especially for kids as well.
Daniel Waterman is a software engineer by day. Tonight he's checking tickets.
I think a steam engine is sort of a living thing. I think a lot of people say it's the closest thing we've ever invented as humans to another living sort of being. It's steam. There's steam coming out, especially on a night like tonight. You've got the steam, it hangs around, it looks beautiful. The smells, the sounds.
Tickets cost $25 per person. Almost all seats are fully booked this Christmas season. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And canines in Hungary have been hitting the fashion runway. The events are aimed at finding new homes for shelter dogs and promoting responsible dog ownership. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
Dogs and models sporting elegant designer outfits strut down the catwalk. This event is aimed at finding good homes for these shelter pooches near Budapest.
I knew a lot of fashion designers, and I thought I would combine that with my love for dogs, and that's how the Dogs on the Catwalk came about. I've been seeing a lot of videos about dog shelters on social media lately, which truly inspired me.
Organizers say any profits from the show will be donated to dog shelters as well.
Adoption is trendy, adoption is cool. And if we can be responsible owners, let's adopt dogs, help them in their daily struggles, and give them a new life. It's also important to stress that shelters can really use all the help they can get in December.
Mistreatment and abandonment are problems that are on the rise in Hungary, creating a need for adoptions.
Some dogs on the catwalk today have been previously dumped on the side of the road, but each of the dogs here have a unique story. I'm confident that all of them will be able to start a new quality life by being adopted, even here.
Dog lover and model Linda Zemeni says she's happy to support the event.
To dogs, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, what kind of clothes you wear, how do you look like, whether you are in a bad mood or in a good mood. A dog will always love you in the same way, and that is such an incredible thing. How great it would be if everyone learned this from the animals.
A number of these pooches had a rough beginning, but shows like these help them find their forever homes. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
If you have any news tips or feedback for the show, please feel free to email us at news.today@ntd.com.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. And I love the oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, Call now and get our TurboShot adjustable nozzle absolutely free. This is an exclusive advanced release of our 2024 edition pocket hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-617-2364 or visit copperbullethose.com. So call 1-800-617-2364 now.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
I'm Kelly Wright in New York City, and we are NTD News.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
The Red Sea becoming more dangerous for commercial ships as the Israel-Hamas war rages on. See how the U.S. is responding.
Houses collapse and roads destroyed. China grapples with its deadliest earthquake in years. The death toll is still coming in.
No major disruptions to air travel after a fiery volcano eruption in Europe last night. We bring you the images and more details on the situation in Iceland.
A Trump super PAC is going after Nikki Haley for the first time. What's in the new ad against the former South Carolina governor?
Millions of Americans expecting to fly this holiday season. See how federal authorities are preparing for the travel rush.
After North Korea's launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile, find out what new system the U.S. and its allies are coming up with.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Over 120 people have been killed in China after an earthquake hit yesterday.
This is China's deadliest earthquake in 9 years.
The magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck just before midnight local time. The epicenter was in Gansu province, a mountainous region of northwestern China. The earthquake struck at a relatively shallow depth of 6 miles.
Over 700 people were injured. Search and rescue efforts are underway, but they are challenging in below freezing temperatures. Social media posts show college students breaking out of their dorms.
The quake damaged or destroyed more than 150,000 homes. It also damaged roads, caused at least one landslide, and knocked out power and communication lines.
Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen expressed condolences to China and offered aid. China has not said whether it will allow in any overseas rescue teams. It's unclear if the death toll reported by Chinese state media is accurate due to the Chinese regime's lack of transparency.
And now we turn to the latest updates from the Israel-Hamas war.
The United Nations Security Council plans to vote on a new resolution today, sponsored by Arab nations calling for a ceasefire.
This comes as Israeli ground forces are moving into South Gaza. As the military operations continue, Israel said they killed a prominent Hamas financier. They said he transferred tens of millions of dollars to the terrorist group's military wing.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is visiting Qatar now, which is a key mediator in the conflict. This came after he announced a new operation to ensure safety for commercial ships in the Red Sea.
Yemen's Houthi rebels have been intensifying attacks against cargo ships in the waterway. The new initiative could provide escort for some ships.
Some ships have turned off their tracking systems in fear of Houthi attacks. Shipping giant Maersk said they are rerouting their ships all the way around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. Here's Secretary Austin addressing the issue.
All countries have the right to move freely and lawfully in international waters. But that foundational global right is under new threat today from the totally unacceptable attacks on merchant vessels by the Houthis in Yemen. These reckless Houthi attacks are a serious international problem, and they demand a firm international response.
The super PAC supporting former President Trump has launched its first ad targeting Republican rival Nikki Haley.
The 30-second spot accuses Haley of flip-flopping on gas tax while she was governor of South Carolina. At the time, Haley initially opposed raising the gas tax, but later agreed to the increase only if it was offset by income tax cuts.
That's right. High-tax Haley broke her promise.
A recent ad from a super PAC supporting Ron DeSantis also criticized Haley for the same issue.
Haley has become a top target in recent weeks as she increases her standing in the 2024 White House race. Still, Trump remains the frontrunner.
And staying in election news, Iowa's Republican Governor Kim Reynolds is now criticizing former President Trump.
Trump has been airing a campaign ad in Iowa with old footage of Reynolds praising him. The governor told Fox News today that she thinks it's misleading and it's not fair to Iowans.
Reynolds endorsed Trump for president in 2016 and 2020. For the 2024 election, Reynolds initially said she would remain neutral in the Republican primary, but now she's backing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis instead.
Reynolds said it's a different day, it's a different time. Iowa holds the first in the nation caucuses on January 15th.
And the Biden administration is expected to launch a new refugee program today. It would let sponsors in the U.S. nominate specific people they want to bring to the country. The program is known as the Welcome Corps. It would allow groups of 5 or more people to nominate a person or family to sponsor. That's if they meet certain criteria and pass background checks.
Advocates of the rule say it could help families reunite and involve more everyday Americans in resettlement efforts. Previously, the United Nations and the U.S. State Department selected most refugees entering the U.S.
The new rule does not apply to immigrants who enter the country illegally. They are classified as asylum seekers if they surrender to authorities in the U.S. Refugee status is reserved for people who apply from abroad. And in related news, the backlog of pending cases in immigration courts passed 3 million for the first time ever this November. That's despite a record number of judges working on the cases and a faster completion rate.
The flood of cases is proving too much to keep up with. Judges are swamped with an average of 4,500 pending cases each. Only 12 months ago, the backlog of cases was reportedly at 2 million. New York City has sent nearly 20,000 illegal immigrants out of the city since March of last year. That's according to the City Hall data. The transport was done through a travel ticket purchase program. That program has so far cost the city more than $4.6 million. New York City agencies have brought more than 19,000 tickets for illegal immigrants to travel to 10 different states around the U.S. They include Texas and Florida, 2 Republican-led states that have their own programs to send migrants to other jurisdictions. A spokesperson for New York City Mayor Eric Adams said more than 154,000 migrants have arrived in the city over the last 20 months.
And coming up today is the 4th and final day of the Conservative America Fest conference in Phoenix. We hear from some young people about what drove them to attend and take a look at some highlights.
80 protesters are facing charges for blocking the San Francisco Bay Bridge. The group snarled traffic for hours while demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
And back to the news. The Senate is back in session this week. They're not supposed to be, but they had to come back because they missed their deadline to pass a bill for Ukraine, Israel, and the border. Joining us now to discuss where the Senate stands is Epoch Times reporter Lawrence Wilson. Lawrence, what's the holdup with this bill in the Senate? Why did they miss their deadline here? Lawrence, tell us what the holdup with this bill in the Senate is about. Why is this happening?
Yeah, well, the Senate stayed in over the weekend and they're working this week instead of being on their Christmas break to try to get this done. But as some senators have said, you know, immigration reform is hard. One senator told us that, believe it or not, gun control was an easier issue to deal with. So this is something that's just been a problem in the country for a long time. There are very deep feelings on both sides of it, and they've had trouble negotiating a compromise here.
And what do the Republicans want at the border?
Well, Republicans want something really simple. Close the border, no illegal immigration on the southern border, and that's what they're pushing for. They want to see the provisions of H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, which the House passed earlier this year. They want to see that enacted by the Senate before they will agree to any more foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan across the board. So that's what they're holding out for. The Democrats, meanwhile, they say, yeah, we want to see some reform, but we really want to, as Chuck Schumer said, we don't want to lose sight of our values in this. So they're really pushing to keep families together, to not see some of the what they see as more extreme provisions on the border security that were happening a few years ago. And that's kind of where the impasse is.
Now, why did this bill pass the House but not the Senate?
Well, partly it has to do with the dynamics of the House versus the Senate. Republicans are in control of the House, and border security is huge with House Republicans, and so they had some momentum behind that and got it passed. The Senate is by nature a little harder to get things through. It requires nearly 60 votes for nearly anything to get through the Senate. And senators, even Republican senators, are a little bit more hawkish on foreign aid. They really believe in American strength abroad, or many of them do. So they were a little slower to come around to attaching these border provisions to the Ukraine aid. So it's taken a little bit longer there.
And as we're talking about this, of course, Ukraine aid is on the table. What's at stake for Ukraine right now?
Well, everything, really. Now, they're not out of bullets yet. And Admiral John Kirby, who is spokesperson for the NSC, he said yesterday that they have enough existing spending authority to send one more batch of weapons and ammunition to Ukraine. Now, for comparison, the last one was on December 6th. That was about $175 million worth. So they really are running down to the end of their supplies here. And it's kind of a war of attrition over there. They really are going to struggle if they lose the support of their foreign allies.
So yeah, a lot at stake for Ukraine. What will it take for the Senate to actually pass this bill?
Well, according to Republicans in the Senate, it's going to take a major policy shift on the border, especially on asylum and immigration, the rules for that. So they're looking for a major change there. In the House, they really want to see an end to illegal immigration. So they're saying, look, I want to be able to go to the border and not see people flooding across it. And until that happens, no more money for Ukraine. So it's going to take some major shift in border policy to see this happen.
Now, I'm wondering about how the fact that the Senate has already failed to meet its deadline with this bill, how could that factor in to these extended negotiations surrounding it?
Well, what it means is that the sense of urgency is growing. In fact, Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, he told reporters yesterday that this isn't just about people. It's also about the commerce between the United States and Mexico, that it's costing millions of dollars a day to our businesses to see this border situation as it is. And of course, you add the situation in Ukraine on top of that. There's a high degree of urgency on both sides, at least in the Senate, to get something done here.
All right, Epoch Times reporter Lawrence Wilson, good to see you as always, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis allegedly breaking campaign finance laws. A campaign watchdog group says DeSantis illegally coordinated with a super PAC. The Campaign Legal Center accuses DeSantis of making direct requests or suggestions to a super PAC called Never Back Down.
Political campaigns are not allowed to work directly in cooperation or consultation with super PACs. This includes candidates suggesting where, when, and how a super PAC airs its political communications.
The watchdog group says this is what the DeSantis campaign has done. The group says through such collusion, super PACs lose their independence and become part of the political campaign.
The DeSantis campaign and the super PAC have denied the allegation. DeSantis now has 2 weeks to officially respond to the complaint. After that, the Federal Election Council will review it and make a recommendation to its 6-member bipartisan commission.
Today is the final day of Turning Point USA's America Fest 2023 in Phoenix, Arizona. Young conservatives from across the nation traveled to attend the conference. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on what they had to say and some highlights from a few speakers.
17-year-old Lydia Harvey traveled from Texas to attend the conference. She'll be voting for the first time in the 2024 election.
I will be voting for President Trump. He already did a wonderful job the first time running the country. He kept all of his promises.
Elsa Personette says she grew up in a very liberal state and felt alone in her views. So she really appreciates the networking and connections she can make at AmFest.
Meeting people from all over the country that are like-minded in the same political views and values as you.
Blaine Hibbert's favorite speaker was Carrie Lake.
She's running for the United States Senate here in Arizona, and she's going to do a great job. She's a very passionate individual, and she refers to herself as Trump in a dress, so that's pretty cool too.
Jessica Gomez feels that modern culture has demonized traditional values.
when you have conservative values, a lot of people think that it's hateful and that it's trying to be against them and that it's trying to be racist, be homophobic.
Gomez is hoping a Republican wins the presidency, saying college students have suffered economic hardship under President Biden. Conservative commentator Tucker Carlson spoke at the event. He said America sits on the cusp of collapse, with interest on the debt costing more than defense spending.
And when robotics are eliminating entire classes of jobs for working class people, why would you admit illegally tens of millions of people from the poorest countries in the world with no skills?
The conservative commentator said the current administration and enablers in the Republican Party are trying to destroy the United States.
The people doing evil do not win in the end. They are destroyed by the evil that flows through them.
Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy also spoke at the event, laying out his plan for election integrity.
Single day voting on election day as a national holiday with paper ballots, government issued ID to match the voter file.
Political commentator Benny Johnson gave some advice to young men on how to be unshakable.
Find a woman, fall in love, get married, have more children than you can afford, have insane amounts of kids. There's nothing the world can do to shake you if you do those simple steps.
Turning Point USA is an American nonprofit organization. It was founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk and Bill Montgomery. It supports conservative politics on high school, college, and university campuses. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
What are federal authorities doing to prepare for the holiday Christmas travel season?
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg provided an update today from Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport.
Buttigieg says we may experience some bad weather impacting travel around Christmas and New Year.
Air travel in the U.S. has already rebounded, surpassing 2019 levels. AAA predicts that 7.5 million people will fly in the U.S. in late December.
Airlines for America expects 39 million trips. They say the Thursday and Friday before Christmas and the 4 days after the holiday are the peak days.
The Transportation Secretary says his department will use every tool at their disposal to keep delays and cancellations as low as possible.
Bottom line, if an airline lets its passengers down, we are here to hold them accountable. We've opened military airspace that will be available for moving north-south traffic on the East Coast. We're cooperating with the commercial space industry to limit launches during peak travel season. And we've also opened up this year 169 additional East Coast routes to accommodate more traffic.
The Justice Department launched a new national database to centralize information of misconduct of federal officials. The new measure will make it more difficult for these officers to get hired by other departments. It will flag them during the hiring process for law enforcement positions. President Biden says it's part of an executive order on police reforms he signed in 2022. Right now, the database only applies to federal officers. But Biden says he's working to allow state, local, and tribal agencies to also participate.
Prosecutors have begun charging 80 protesters who blocked traffic on the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge last month. The delay lasted for hours as demonstrators demanded a ceasefire in Gaza. 17 people appeared in court yesterday to face a slew of charges.
Defendants face counts of false imprisonment, refusing to comply with an officer, unlawful public assembly, and obstruction of a street, sidewalk, or other public place.
About 200 protesters blocked all lanes of traffic into San Francisco on the bridge's upper deck. Some drivers tossed their keys into the bay. Dozens were arrested and 29 vehicles were towed.
Protesters have also blocked major roadways in Los Angeles, New York City, Boston, and Philadelphia. Hawaii Governor Josh Green is requesting $425 million from state lawmakers during the next fiscal year. The funding would help Maui recover from August's devastating wildfires. The fast-moving blaze killed at least 100 people. The inferno destroyed Maui's historic town of Lahaina. About 12,000 people were displaced. Half are still living in hotels due to a severe housing shortage on the island.
The proposed budget is Green's first request from state lawmakers since the catastrophe. The federal government is paying for much of Lahaina's cleanup and emergency housing.
Green said that it will cost more than $5 billion to recover from the fire. The state's share would be about $500 million.
The State Council on Revenues is scheduled to meet on January 8th. Coming up, European technology regulations may be unfairly targeting U.S. companies. Find out what lawmakers are saying in a letter to President Biden.
And a U.S. electric vehicle rule could increase reliance on China. How? And how could the regulation be reversed? We'll have the details soon when we return.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to life. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Kindness is cool because we feel happier when we do good. Kindness connects us with others and improves our self-esteem. Simple actions, meaningful lives. Let's practice kindness, share our love, and show our care for one another. Submit videos of kindness to Gangjing World for prizes up to $10,000 in cash. For more information, visit gangjingworld.com.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Melina Weiskup on Capitol Hill, and we are NTD.
Joining us now is NTD business host Don Ma to discuss Tennessee's lawsuit against BlackRock.
The state is suing the investment firm in a first-of-its-kind ESG litigation. What's Tennessee alleging here, Don?
Well, the state is claiming that BlackRock actually misled the people in the state and that it violated consumer protection laws. So specifically, they say that BlackRock didn't accurately represent how much environmental, social, and governance factors actually went into their investment strategies. And this is for both existing and potential future customers in Tennessee. And the Tennessee Attorney General said that BlackRock's inconsistent statements about its investment strategies deprived consumers of actually having an informed decision. And he said that some public statements that were made by BlackRock show conflicting information, because one public statement shows that a focus on return, while others show a focus on environmental factors. So that's inconsistent positions here, according to them. And focusing on money and focusing on environmental factors, sometimes you can't really have both. You can only choose one or the other. So the Tennessee lawsuit is what they say is in response to BlackRock's conflicting statements. And the lawsuit, in addition, goes on to say that BlackRock has downplayed the extent to which ESG considerations actually drive its investment strategies. So, you mentioned earlier, this is in fact a first of its kind legal challenge, which accuses BlackRock of actually violating consumer protection laws.
Now, what was BlackRock's reaction to the lawsuit?
Yeah, well, of course, BlackRock is rejecting the Attorney General's claims and will vigorously contest any accusations that BlackRock violated Tennessee's consumer protection laws. And a spokesperson said this in addition as well, saying that contrary to the Attorney General's accusations, that BlackRock actually fully and accurately have disclosed their investment practices, and BlackRock invests somewhere around $40 billion in the state of Tennessee, and in total, it manages around $9.1 trillion in assets. And they're saying they're proud of their contributions, actually, that has been committed to the future of Tennessee. But, over the years, BlackRock has come under fire for its ESG policies. And especially in my view, what shouldn't be happening at BlackRock is their heavy investment in China, actually. Because, let's not even talk about the human rights issues relating to China, which I think that alone is enough. But, China is actually the worst polluter of the environment in the world. So, Larry Fink really spearheaded ESG. But, you have to wonder, what E or S or G does China actually align with in terms of this whole movement, right? Environmental, social, or governance.
What else is happening in the business world, Don?
Right. European technology regulations may be unfairly targeting U.S. companies. This is according to a letter sent to President Biden from a bipartisan group of lawmakers. Under the EU's Digital Markets Act, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Microsoft will be required to make their messaging apps work with rivals and let users choose which ones they want pre-installed on their devices. And this could go into effect next year in March. 21 members of the House of Representatives warned that the new rules could damage American economic and security interests. They're calling on Biden to ensure that the EU rules are enforced fairly. Meanwhile, efforts are underway to reverse the Treasury Department electric vehicle rule. Critics say it will increase U.S. reliance on China. Earlier this month, the Treasury issued guidance limiting Chinese content in batteries eligible for electric vehicle tax credits starting next year. But later, the Treasury said it would temporarily exempt some trace critical minerals from new strict rules barring materials from China. Senator Joe Manchin said the Treasury's guidance will make it easier for Chinese companies to take advantage of the EV tax credit. He says that it's going to hurt American taxpayers and increase reliance on foreign nations, which of course includes China, that is for battery and vehicle component supply chains. And finally, former crypto exchange CEO Changpeng Zhao will pay $150 million, and Binance will pay $2.7 billion to the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. This is according to a U.S. court order. The $150 million is a civil penalty personally against Zhao, and the $2.7 billion includes a return of $1.35 billion in ill-gotten transaction fees, and the rest is a penalty paid to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. That's it from me.
All right, thank you, Don.
Thank you.
And you could be in line for a payout from Google over its App Store. The tech giant has agreed to pay $700 million to settle an antitrust case brought by states and consumers.
Eligible users will get at least $2 each, and maybe more depending on how much they use the Google Play Store. Here's more in the lawsuit.
Google was accused of overcharging consumers through unlawful restrictions on the distribution of apps on Android devices. It was also accused of imposing unnecessary fees on in-app transactions. The firm hasn't admitted any wrongdoing as part of the settlement. Utah and other states first announced the deal in September, but the terms were kept secret pending the outcome of a related suit brought by the maker of the Fortnite video game. A California jury last week ruled against Google in that case too. The company says it is now working to make it easier for consumers to use alternative methods for in-app purchases. As part of the settlement, it will also make it simpler for people to download apps directly from developers. Lawyers for the states said the agreement would bring meaningful relief for consumers.
Apple is pulling some of its watches off the shelves in the U.S. amid a patent dispute. The company says its Series 9 and Ultra 2 versions will not be sold online or at retail locations starting this week. This comes as Apple fights a battle with medical device maker Masimo over the watch's blood oxygen feature. The International Trade Commission's review ends December 25th. Apple is preemptively halting sales in case the commission upholds the import ban over the alleged patent infringements.
Cinnamon applesauce may be poisonous. The FDA said tests of cinnamon samples found lead levels more than 2,000 times higher than proposed standards. The samples came from an agency inspection of a facility in Ecuador linked to contaminated applesauce pouches. Those pouches were sold in the U.S. and are under recall. They were sold under the Wanabana, Weiss, and Schnucks brands. The FDA says there have been at least 65 reports of illnesses in children under 6 years old linked to the pouches. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, using different data, has found more than 120 confirmed or suspected cases in 22 states. The FDA recommends anyone who may have consumed the recalled products get their blood tested for lead. The agency is also looking into whether this cinnamon was used in other products that have come into the U.S.
Fresh Express is recalling 2 of its spinach products due to possible Listeria contamination. The affected products are Fresh Express brand 8-ounce bags with a use-by date of December 15th and Publix brand 9-ounce bags with a use-by date of December 14th. Both spinach items were distributed to retailers in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. No illnesses have been reported in connection with the recall.
And Empower Brands is recalling more than 300,000 air fryers. They were sold at popular retail stores like Walmart or Target between August 2021 through October of this year. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, 2 models of the Power XL Dual Basket Air Fryer are affected. The agency has received more than 40 reports of food baskets breaking apart during use, including 3 reports of burns. According to the alert, the plastic connector that's used to connect the 2 baskets inside the units can break.
Coming up, more than 120 nativity scenes from over 20 countries are on display in Vatican City. We hear about the stories behind the exhibits.
Right now, all over the country, kids at Shriners Hospitals for Children are able to go home and be with their families for the holidays. And it's only possible because of the monthly support of people just like you.
Thanks to a generous donor, every dollar you give can help twice as many kids like me and have double the impact.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of the care you'll be providing so kids can be with their families.
only takes a moment to call the number on your screen, or you can visit loveshriners.org right now on your phone or computer.
Thanks to a generous donor, your gift will go twice as far and help more kids like me.
Because every child just wants to be home for the holidays, and your gift makes that possible.
Your call is the best gift of all. Your gift will be my favorite Christmas present this year. Thank you for giving.
Please call the number on your screen or go online right now with your monthly gift.
And when you do, your gift will have 2 times the impact.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Heading now to Europe, we start with a powerful natural phenomenon on a Nordic island and its fallout. The government of Iceland says last night's large volcanic eruption poses no threat to life and that it won't affect air travel as international flight corridors remain open.
That's after lava and smoke poured into the Iceland sky last night. Between 3,000 to 7,000 cubic feet of lava emerged per second. That's several times more than in previous eruptions in the area.
Local police raised their alert level as the result of the eruption. The country's civil defense warned the public not to approach the area. Iceland was prepared for the eruption. Last month, the government evacuated around 4,000 people.
A volcanic eruption in Iceland in 2010 caused the largest closure of European airspace since World War II. Many flights connecting Europe and the U.S. fly over Iceland. This resulted in financial losses of around $2 billion.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today said Moscow will continue its war in Ukraine and that attempts by the West to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia had crumbled.
At the same time, Putin said that Russia would be prepared to talk to Ukraine, the U.S. and Europe about the future of Ukraine if they wanted to, but he added that Moscow would defend its national interests.
At the same conference, Russia's defense minister said today that Russia plans to increase the number of soldiers to 1.5 million and that Russia increased tank production by over 5 times since the start of the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says new sanctions by the EU will help reduce Russia's economic foundation for the war.
The new sanctions focus on import ban on Russian origin diamonds and additional imports and export bans. It's the 12th set of sanctions introduced by the bloc.
This comes as Ukraine's army chief insists the situation on the front line of the war has not reached a stalemate.
Last month, the army chief did describe it as a stalemate. However, he changed his stance after Zelenskyy denied the war had reached that point.
Western nations accuse Iran of violating multiple points of a nuclear deal. That's by allegedly developing and testing ballistic missiles, transferring hundreds of drones to Russia, and enriching uranium to an unprecedented 60% level.
Britain, France, and Germany say those points violate the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The UN political chief yesterday urged Iran to reverse course. Iran and its ally Russia dismissed the charges.
After reaching a military agreement with Finland yesterday, the United States is now expanding cooperation with Denmark.
The Danish Prime Minister today announced that his country reached a defense deal with the U.S. American soldiers and equipment can be permanently stationed on Danish soil.
The 10-year agreement comes after the U.S. signed similar agreements with Finland and Sweden this month. Officials are set to sign the agreement later this week. The U.S. and its allies in Asia are taking action over the threat of North Korea. The U.S., Japan, and South Korea have activated a new data sharing system. The system detects and assesses North Korea's missile launches in real time.
The announcement came a day after North Korea test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile. The communist regime said this was to gauge the war readiness of its nuclear force against the U.S.
On Monday, South Korea started joint special operations exercises with the U.S. They will last for 2 weeks.
The three nations will also conduct more joint military exercises.
International pressure is building over a landmark national security trial in Hong Kong for leading China critic Jimmy Lai, with British authorities calling for consular access to the jailed Democrat, and his trial enters its second day today. Joining us now, Benedict Rogers, the co-founder and chief executive of Hong Kong Watch. He also wrote The China Nexus. Benedict, what impact does Jimmy Lai's trial in Hong Kong have on the city's dwindling autonomy, and what are the broader implications for dissent under CCP control?
Well, Jimmy Lai's trial is really emblematic of the all-out assault by the Chinese Communist Party on Hong Kong's autonomy, rule of law, and basic freedoms. And the fact that the judges are appointed in his trial, he did not have the lawyer of his choice. There's no jury. He's been denied bail. All of these things show that Hong Kong's autonomy really has gone.
And how does the recent move by Hong Kong authorities to place bounties on activists living overseas, pro-democracy activists, that is, signify a concerning extension of the shift within Hong Kong and the CCP's influence there? And what does it imply for global activism?
I think it's an extremely concerning development. We saw in the summer 8 exiled activists receiving bounties and arrest warrants, and just last week another 5, several of whom live in the UK, some in the US, and others in Australia. And I think it is a real sign of the Chinese Communist Party extending its influence well beyond its borders to try to silence critics. And I think the international community has a real duty to stand up against this and to particularly protect those individuals who are affected by it.
Yeah, you mentioned the international community. We have seen some diplomatic pressure building, especially in regards to Jimmy Lai's incarceration. What do you think that the international community can do to effectively support people who are repressed by the CCP and respond as well to transnational repression by the CCP?
Well, as well as calling it out and speaking out in the strongest possible terms against these kind of threats, I think the governments of the countries where these individuals are now living, and that's particularly the United States and the United Kingdom, and in the previous round of bounties also Australia, have a responsibility to make sure that those individuals have necessary protection, have a direct line to call if they do receive any imminent physical threats, and also put pressure on other countries to abandon, to suspend extradition treaties with China and Hong Kong.
Now, as a co-founder of Hong Kong Watch, could you briefly elaborate on the challenges that your organization has faced due to being targeted by the new national security law there, and what it indicates about this shrinking space for advocacy within Hong Kong?
Well, our challenges go some way back. In 2017, before the national security law, I was denied entry to Hong Kong. But then in 2022, after the national security law, we received direct threats saying that from the Hong Kong police force, saying that our work is a violation of the national security law, even though we don't have any presence in Hong Kong. It was an exercise of the extraterritoriality clause of that law. And I was personally told that if I didn't cease my activities, I could face a prison sentence in Hong Kong. It hasn't stopped us continuing. In fact, it's made us more determined to redouble our efforts. But if they're threatening a foreign organization based in the UK in that way, you can imagine how much worse it is for those who have family and assets and contacts, friends in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. Benedict Rogers, co-founder and chief executive of Hong Kong Watch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next, NASA is ringing in the new year with these images of Uranus. They're from the James Webb Space Telescope and show new details of the icy giant. Check it out. The images provide fresh views of the rings of Uranus, including the extremely faint one closest to the planet. They also reveal moons, storms, and a seasonal North Pole cloud cap.
More than 120 nativity scenes are on display at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City. For the next few weeks, visitors will be able to admire works from over 20 countries. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
This is the 6th year of the 100 nativity scenes in the Vatican exhibition under Vatican City's Bernini colonnade. Installations are made from cork, terracotta, wood, soap, and even coral.
We have 20 countries participating besides Italy, and this fills us with joy because the displays have arrived here under the colonnade from so many places in the world. The materials are as varied as usual, so they're recycled materials, precious materials.
This Ukrainian sculpture features Saint Joseph embracing Mary and baby Jesus. 2 bomb fragments are embedded in the piece. This wooden nativity scene from Poland has a special backstory.
The nativity scenes, whether set in times past or recent, have a connection with the reality we live in and give us a message of hope and peace. There is a nativity scene that comes from Poland, from the Ulma Family Museum, who were canonized this year, and this is a great sign.
The Ulma family of 9 was executed by the Nazis during World War II for sheltering Jews. Hundreds of visitors flocked to the Bernini colonnade on opening day. Traditional Neapolitan-style nativity scenes as well as more bizarre creations usher in the Christmas spirit.
The nativities on display are all beautiful. They are all beautiful and they express different cultures, but with a unique root, which is that of the nativity of St. Francis. Extraordinary.
Some prefer more traditional representations.
I'm more interested in old-fashioned nativity scenes, with representation as they used to be, but it's still very nice and interesting, and there are a lot of novelties.
Almost every Italian home has a nativity scene displayed next to the Christmas tree. Families traditionally gather to set up the miniature representation of the birth of Jesus. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Bethlehem is usually crowded with tourists during Christmas. It's known to Christians as the birthplace of Jesus.
But this year, with war raging in Gaza, festivities were called off in the West Bank city.
Bethlehem is usually busiest at Christmas as tourists flock to see the birthplace of Jesus. But this year, war has driven away tourists and pilgrims from the Palestinian town in the West Bank. It's left hotels, restaurants and souvenir shops deserted. Global headlines have been dominated since October 7th by news of the Hamas attacks in southern Israel. They were followed by Israel's military assault on Gaza and a rise in violence in the West Bank. Joey Canavati is a hotel owner whose family has lived and worked in Bethlehem for 4 generations.
Everybody lives from tourism here in Bethlehem. And when everything is shut down, the whole city, the whole country is shut down. It's unbelievable. This is the worst Christmas ever.
Bethlehem's local economy is heavily reliant for income and jobs on visitors who come to see the Church of the Nativity. Christians believe it stands on the site where Jesus was born. Canavati said his hotel was fully booked for Christmas before October 7th, but things have drastically changed since then.
The hotel is completely empty. We have no guests, no one, even plus we have bookings for 2024 are all canceled. So we were expecting a very good year for 2024. But now all what we get on the email is cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. So it is a catastrophe.
Bethlehem's manger square is in front of the Church of the Nativity and usually serves as a key point for Christmas celebrations. But it was quiet and almost empty. Ronnie Tabash runs a souvenir shop there.
This time of year, usually we have full of festivals. Bethlehem, it's the best place in the world in this time. This is Christmas time, where Jesus was born in Bethlehem. So for us, this time is really very difficult. We are almost 2 months without any pilgrim, any tourist.
Ala Salama runs a falafel restaurant, and he too has seen visitor numbers fall.
We are praying for peace,
for peace. You know, Bethlehem is the city where peace was born. So it should be the messenger for peace to be spread all over the world.
And it's already plenty cold in some parts of the country, but technically winter is still a few days away. The official first day of astronomical winter is Thursday. Thursday is the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Depending on where you're at, you can expect only about 9 to 10 hours of daylight. The southern U.S. will see a bit more and the north a bit less. And a family in Lexington, Kentucky got quite the surprise when they found something living in their Christmas tree, an owlet. Madeline Hill White said her mom had already decorated the Christmas tree and 4 days went by before anyone spotted the owl. As you can see, someone gently removed the bird from the tree and released it into a wooded area nearby. Well, that's all for today's news.
Thank you for tuning in.
Feel free to reach out to us with news tips or feedback at news.today@ntd.com.
And we'll be back with more stories tomorrow.